All right, hello and welcome. We've got another talk here with another player from one of the qualifying teams from the EU CWL, and this face way more recognisable than mine. This is the infamous Callum Swanny Swan, and he's currently with Millennium. First of all, Swan, how are you?
Good, Bryce. Excuse the nasal tone. I'm suffering from post-event sickness, which I haven't had in a while, which isn't very good, but I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, I don't think you're actually the only player suffering from that. I think I've actually spoken to Reedy on a previous episode, and he was quite ill as well. So it seems to be something that's going around. I do have to kind of compliment you first of all on that beard. That is some impressive growth you've got going on there on the face. Is that just kind of just winding down from an event, or were we expecting to see some sort of full mammoth beard growing?
I can't take much credit for it. I've just let it rock. It hasn't really been intentional. It's the byproduct of a belated Movember, I guess. I should really take the shares to it.
I was hoping to see sort of like a big swan beard. Maybe that would be something we see.
I aspire to have a beard like Flame Sword. I
was just saying that's who you're starting to kind of resemble just a little bit. It's coming along quite nicely.
Moments maybe.
All right, let's get on to kind of the topics we want to talk about. First of all, I want to speak about your squad. There was such a big noise kind of happened through Twitter and stuff when you guys announced. Obviously, I knew about it a little bit before you guys came live because I speak to you guys regularly. First of all, how did it come about? You had a good squad, Swan, and then you managed to find an even better one.
Yeah, essentially, Jed, we got the news that Jed was confirmed to come back to Europe, and we wanted to pick up Jed, and it happened. I think even, you know, to be fair, we said that we wouldn't. We gave Joe our assurance.
Yeah.
Whoa, my control nearly fell off the desk. Sorry. we gave Joe our assurance prior to picking him up that wouldn't be the case. I think that was one of his concerns, and just to kind of clarify that, we didn't. It wasn't the plan all along to sort of pick up Jed whenever he came back. But I think the more we thought about it when he came back, and the more when we heard the news, we just thought this is an opportunity that's too good to pass up. You know, the amalgamation of these four players, or
the gold squad.
Yeah, well, me and my three teammates who I'd consider to be most certainly up there in terms of individually or individual skill, not just in Europe but in the world. So to be able to form this squad, and for me personally to be able to team with these three specifically, I just thought it was too good of an opportunity to miss.
Well, I mean, let's be perfectly honest here. When this whole sort of Europe going over to North America escapade started occurring, it was kind of you and Jerd who kick-started it. When you were back teaming, I think way back on Epsilon, if I've got that correct, you and Jerd were loyal to each other for a long, long time. And then you both kind of went your separate ways, and then Europe just kind of went over to America. A lot of players did. But you two were the start, so this is kind of like a reunification of everyone's come back to Europe, and you two have come back together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's somewhat been instigated, or the catalyst for it is obviously the Call of Duty World League, which I'm sure we might speak about more. But the fact that, you know, it's not just, you know, it's not just all North American centric, the support. It's now been spread out globally. You've obviously got not just Europe, but the Australians. They have quite a significant increase in their prize pool, like financially, the events they're getting put on, and obviously all of that is transferred over to Europe to the point where it makes sense for players to actually stick within this region for a few seasons and grow within Europe rather than there's no real need to travel across the pond anymore, I don't think.
Okay, that's kind of a cool perspective, thinking that, you know, that we've strengthened up. I mean, the numbers last event kind of put paid to that as well, didn't they? You see that the European numbers were very high. You know, it was kind of if you look at numbers historically for European Call of Duty, that is going to be one of the spikes that will always be an anomaly on it unless we can continue it. But let's talk about, because when this team was announced, and let's face it, this team was announced late-ish notice to the CWL. Obviously, you weren't with Vitality. Now, the reason you weren't with Vitality was because of the rules about only having one squad, and they had a French team they wanted to go with. How was finding an org at that point here? Bearing in mind that I tweeted out, and a lot of people agree with me, most marketable team in Europe for me. How did the search go, and how did you end up with Millennium?
It's a decent point to elaborate on, actually, just our marketability as a team, and I think that's in some ways eclipses the skill of the team, which is saying something. I think that's probably our most beneficial attribute, aside from how we perform in game, is our marketability. The fact that it's not only it's not only me and three of arguably the best players in Europe, but it's definitely the four most marketable, at least within the UK space. So as you said, kind of going on and trying to find the organisation, it wasn't that hard to initially gauge reception and garner interest from prospective organisations, just purely based on that, social media following and how long we've been established as individuals. So yeah, I mean, aside from Millennium, there were other organisations we were talking to. There were, and I'm not sure if I don't really think I've touched on this publicly, but some of them of which weren't involved in Call of Duty previously, or still aren't involved in Call of Duty. And obviously, I don't want to delve too much into the specifics and financial side of things, but it just so happened that we spoke more with Millennium, sorry, and given the fact that they've already had an established presence within Call of Duty for the past few years, what they've offered previous teams, our relationship with them. Obviously, if people don't know, Tommy's represented them previously.
Yes, yeah, he has.
Mad Cat's represented them previously, so that was really important for us, just having an organisation, not just who we could trust, but who we had a good professional and a good overall relationship with.
It was kind of knowing what you were expecting, I suppose, going into it. Like, if you join any org, you've got to kind of know what the relationship's going to be like before you kind of jump into it, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I know a lot of people wanted us for good reason to be picked up by an external organisation or an organisation who hadn't previously been in COD, but I think they need to understand that it might sound selfish, but it's about the offer which is right for our team and us as individuals. We prioritise that over, being potential ambassadors or pioneers of any venture. It was more important for us to ensure that we had stability and sustainability in whichever organisation than to perhaps not take a risk, but embark upon another journey which we didn't know the outcome of.
All right, well, this is a little bit side off of the topic we've been talking about with Millennium here, and for me, like I said, I was a little bit surprised that was the org, but understanding the reasons behind it kind of makes sense to me as well. This is something you've been talking about recently, and something you've changed from how you used to be. First of all, obviously, you've mellowed as a player over the years. Considerably, in my opinion. Like I said, I've known you for quite a while now, especially with regards to your teammates. It's a lot easier to deal with you. But the kind of the biggest shock is that you used to be famous. You and Gunchy at the same level for absolutely rejecting camera work or doing interviews or tweeting or any of the social media stuff, any of the media stuff in point. And now you've come so far away from it. You're pretty much the darling of European Call of Duty. You're doing interviews with major celebrities. How has that kind of transition been for you? And like I said, for me, it all kind of started when you upgraded your phone.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it that way, but that could be, if I look back in a few years and I've somehow transitioned over full time to the whole media and camera work, I might think, it was because of that old phone. That was my limiting factor. But no, it's I think it's been a case of, number one, just general maturity.
Yeah.
And understanding that it's a transition. Now I don't treat it as an obligation. I actually enjoy it to the point where I'm obviously pursuing it as much as I am, and I've considered pursuing it full time after I'm done with playing, if I ever reach that point, which is doubtful at the moment. But it's about understanding that it's a necessity. If it's a necessity both for yourself in terms of building your own brand and actually positively contributing towards the community as a whole and trying to grow Call of Duty esports, and that it's not just your success as an individual or the growth of Call of Duty esports. It isn't predicated at all on your individual skill or how you do in game. It's more so how you conduct yourself, what you do out of game, I guess how big of a personality you are, how much of an entertainer you are. All of these contribute both financially in terms of being able to sustain a living from it and being able to grow Call of Duty as a whole. So sorry to waffle on, by the way, Bryce.
No. So this is something we do a lot. Considering me and you've actually been working together a lot more frequently over the year. I mean, we've cast finals now. We've done
if I could just interject and say so.
Thank you very much. I said I've enjoyed it as well. I said it was a massive change for me. The kind of you appearing in a lot of the work that I'm very used to, and you've taken to it like a duck to water. One of the reasons I'm doing these videos is exactly what you said. I think Europe needs more people on camera, and I think more good people on camera. And for me, you're one of the reasons that proves that people can do it. I think most importantly from you right now, is I kind of want to get your point of view to players who aren't doing. There are some players who still don't kind of get where you've gone, and because you used to be like some of these players who are nervous on camera or don't like doing it or don't see the point. Is there anything you would say to these people?
Bottom line is, to put it bluntly, you need to do it. And Bryce, we could spend 20, 30 minutes speaking about the importance of it. Well, I guess to summarize it bluntly, as I said, it's got to the point where, with the inception of the Call of Duty World League, with developer support, backing from publishers, consistent support from various sources, the size of Call of Duty esports as a whole, players need to treat it as a responsibility. And if they're not, then I hope, and this was actually one point I brought up to Activision, and that I think players need to be, and I'm not sure if we're going to be, but I said for the future, players should be contractually obligated to do all these media appearances like they are, with FIFA, professional footballs, or like they are with various other leagues. Players need to understand that and this is particularly pertinent for me personally, is you can't just storm off after a loss or go and celebrate immediately after a win. There are obligations to be fulfilled, and
I mean, most of the fans would love to see these people, wouldn't they? So
and that comes as an obligation or something that's necessary for any sports person, as they need to do all these media things. And if you take the growth of Call of Duty to be sort of linear to these sports, then it's going to get to the point where players need to book up their ideas and prioritize these things over.
I think one of the key kind of things to back you up here, and probably helping strengthen that, is look at the numbers for CWL in Europe just off the back of like Barca. I think that you've only got to look at that and go, well, this is he's already famous. Yeah, but he wouldn't have had that if he hadn't done it beforehand. And just having that kind of following helps the numbers so much that more people are willing to invest. But before me and you get stuck on this, because we will talk about this for about 4 hours. I'm sure one night we will actually talk about this on camera. Run up to the CWL with your squad here. New squad. It was a lot of pressure. Like I said, even though you were the favourites coming in, how did you guys prepare? How did you kind of get your mind ready for this?
I mean, with regards to pressure, sorry, I think I speak for both myself and my teammates when I say that isn't even a contributing factor to our performance at this point.
Well, you're all veterans, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've all competed at, to paraphrase, at the highest level. We've competed consistently against the best in the world. Whether it's the back room of a HMV years ago, or these days, against thousands and thousands of people, whether it's G3, the Call of Duty champs, I don't really care, or I don't even acknowledge that pressure exists, in the sense that it inhibits performance at this point, so that's not really an issue. But as far as, there is obviously some expectations placed upon us, and we acknowledge that, whether it's expectations from Millennium, who they're picking us up.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were you were favourites coming into the CW.
Yeah, exactly. So there's expectations from, Millennium's huge fan base, our fan base as individuals, Millennium as an organisation, various other people, even, you could even say ESL and Activision, etc. They perhaps have teams that they expect to qualify.
Yeah.
So, but for us, it's just kind of concentrating on doing what we're there to do, I guess. Everyone's going to say, yeah, these guys are the gold squad, all-stars, they should be winning every map, etc. But I don't really care about, to put it bluntly, I don't really care about other people's opinions on our team. What matters is how we perform, and just getting the win at the end of the day, whether it's last map, last round, or, absolute whitewash. All that matters is that we won, and that we win, and that we qualified for the league, which we did.
Well, and you did. Now let's talk about the run up to CWL. Obviously, it's probably, I imagine you guys were kind of grinding out the new game. So let's talk about that first, then. Actually, before I go any further, Black Ops 3 here. Now, Swan, I was probably one of the critics of you, and we never knew how you were going to adapt during AW, and that's from a professional standpoint, not from a friend standpoint, saying that, bearing in mind how that meta currently worked and the amount of pressure you had to put on, there were times where your playstyle maybe didn't fit as well with that game as it could have done, and it maybe didn't mesh as well. But this is a very different game here. This is pretty much your bread and butter, and I know watching you in the first few weeks was incredibly impressive. Just how much this game for me has adapted to you. How have you found it?
I guess I'll touch on Advanced Warfare briefly. or overall my kind of transition away from the role that I was previously accustomed to, and
Yeah.
that now I'm making a conscious effort to take a step back in teams and not. Well, I guess it's a combination of that and having the teammates which I do around me. There's absolutely no reason for me to adopt sort of the all-star role in the team when I have three. And in my opinion, I have three significantly more skilled and significantly better teammates. I'm at a point where I like to not play around them, but I'm sort of adopted a more supportive role.
Yeah.
And that for example, I won't let them, but it'll be Jared who's running in and getting that, explosive 2 or 3 piece. It'll be Magpie who's with the AR posted up, picking off, ridiculous shots, and it'll be Tommy, obviously, who's doing his respective thing, and whether it's, clutching ridiculous stuff in Search and Destroy or accompanying the other two in their respawn escapades, whereas I guess I'm in a lot less flashy role, I think, in the past, or I've adopted a lot less flashy role in the past few years, I think, so, and I think that was one of the reasons why people might say that I wasn't comfortable, I guess, in Advanced Warfare, whereas statistically,
statistically you were fine, but I mean it was more the kind of the meshing with you and certain teams in that game.
Yeah,
was slightly off.
And you could say that. Obviously, yourself and various others who have followed me on my journey, I guess, through Call of Duty, I've always been a traditional, slower-paced, can-be person on a head glitch, picking people off, which obviously, as you said, wasn't particularly important on Advanced Warfare. Whereas, as you said, this game, Black Ops 3, I think it suits my playstyle more, but do I think that's going to be a factor in me being, a factor in my skill level on this game? Not really. I think, again, it's just the same thing I said on Advanced Warfare and transitioning over to this game of just me being more of a supportive player, so I'd expect a lot less. I can remember actually on Modern Warfare 3, some of the stuff I did on that game, like individually, was kind of akin to what Jared and Dylan and Tommy are doing these days, just like the individual players, whereas now I'm quite content with trying to think how to word it, with contributing to my team more than just sort of my in-game prowess.
Unselfish play, I suppose you could call that.
Yeah, and just because
Oh, I think something's frozen there. Are you still there, Swan?
Yeah, sorry, mate. Do you want to start that one again?
No. It's fine. We can continue on. It's absolutely fine.
Kicked my bloody F and I came out by accident. So what was I saying? Yeah, I think the best way to summarize it would be I'm slowly transitioning over to a role that requires me to contribute to the team in more ways than simply my gameplay. And that's something that I'm really striving to do, whether it's with communication, motivation, pumping my teammates up, and just being a more valid. I think as you get older in Call of Duty, you begin to realize the importance of becoming a more valuable teammate in other aspects rather than simply how you perform in game.
Well, that's fair enough. I'm kind of glad to hear that you're really in depth looking at these games. And that's what I kind of expect from the top level teams is to break down the game, several levels beyond other teams. A lot of teams like Anchor, Spawns, where you look more into as we've spoken about before, you look a lot deeper into that and then the chemistry and what you need to do rather than just a specific play.
Don't get me wrong, I've mentioned all this and I'm still going to be kicking myself every time I lose a gunfight or anything in game.
So no, I know. I remember watching you win a game 3-1 and just being incredibly angry you lost one. But okay, so we kind of covered the transition into Black Ops 3. Let's talk about the actual CWL now, and you went to the qualifier and you did get through. You did qualify your first game though. Your game against Splice. Now, that was actually a harder matchup than maybe you were expecting in the first round. I mean, all the teams there were good, but there was definitely a sliding scale.
Yeah, I think that was the hardest match of the entire tournament. The entire qualification process.
Yeah.
So far, and even leading into the online qualifiers, it's probably going to be a harder match than anyone's had to play there. The other candidates, Epsilon infused. I guess that was a hard game.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think we had the hardest match of the entire weekend, and especially first game. That sort of emphasises its importance. And leading on from that, to kind of elaborate on it, we did lose first map. And to refer back to my previous point, did we care that we lost first map? Not particularly. When the series is ongoing, you just move on from it. You focus on the next few maps, and at no point did we kind of doubt ourselves, despite losing that first map. I guess it just took us a map or so to get into that tournament mindset, that clinical, I guess, do or die mentality that you need.
All right, well that's cool. So not only your first match and stuff, but how did you find the entire experience of going over to Cologne, playing in the studios? I know you guys had some media obligations to fulfill. How was that experience for you?
It was amazing, to be honest. And a little kind of bit of trivia is, for people who are superstitious, which I'm not, but if I were, I think it would bode well for me, given the fact that the previous time that I'd visited those studios was the Black Ops 2 qualifiers with the Italians. So I walked in there with a big smile on my face, knowing that we managed to qualify the last time I was in the studios, and obviously what we went on to achieve. And if you were superstitious, which again I'm not, you could say that kind of, it hints to a good future, I guess.
You had good vibes about the place, I think. It just felt good.
Which, it's always good, I mean, I don't know if it is superstition, but it's always good, in the back of your mind, that the last time you're at this venue, you're comfortable, you're in a comfortable environment, etc. But yeah, in terms of, I guess I'll touch on briefly every aspect of the event that I saw. Was as good as it could be, I think. I think there were a few minor, not discrepancies, but things they could have improved on, one of which predominantly was having yourself there.
Thank you very much, but yeah.
I will say that publicly, and I thought you should have been there, aside from that.
I do appreciate that, honestly I do.
Yeah, aside from that, I think in terms of the talent lineup, they did well. I mean, I guess you'd be a better critic, but I think they performed well. I'm not particularly.
No, I agree with you. I think the Europeans performed incredibly well this week, and I tweeted out, and I know this is your interview, but I just got to kind of clear this up because it will be asked. I tweeted out saying how kind of awesome I thought everyone did. And said, "Oh, you're just told you're not there." I was like, "No, I'm disappointed I wasn't there." I went, but to see the guys casting, they're all very much good friends of mine. And I thought they performed amazingly well over the weekend. Probably the best that I think any of them have ever performed. So yeah, I'm going to get that out of the way. Go on.
Fair point. So yeah, aside from the talent, as we've said, they were exceptional throughout the entire weekend. I think logistically, the event itself, the production seemed to be good from what little I
for me it was superb.
The venue itself was great. Obviously, there were a few minor aesthetic. I don't know if you managed to catch any of the Black Ops 2 Champs qualifiers, but
well, I was there.
so you'll know that it was like, you'll know the layout of the venue.
Yeah.
There were a few minor aesthetic. I can't believe I didn't realise you were there.
I was casting. It was me and Ben. Yeah, but yeah, I was there.
So yeah, I mean, there were a few minor aesthetic changes, but aside from that, it was kind of the same layout of the venue. Quite small, but appropriate for the occasion. And there was a good little feud between the English and German fans at one point. Which
yeah, I had. There was certainly some heat there.
Yeah, which was always a highlight. But yeah, it was a really good event overall. I think there's a few things they could improve on for next time. I'm not sure if they're planning on. I presume they're planning on hosting more events at the studio itself.
Well, I would hope to see. I mean, like I said, the production was fantastic, so I would at least hope to see it.
Yeah. So I'm sure they've, and I know they've been active actually on Reddit and things in responding to feedback, which is good. So I hope to see what minor improvements can be made, put in place for the next event. Yeah,
me too. I think that's probably one of the most important things. Is you just kind of improve a little bit each time, and if you can maintain that, it's fantastic. All right, so let's talk about. Well, I'm going to ask you kind of your prediction for how you think the Pro League is going to go for you. Obviously, you still got 6 teams. You don't know who's coming in yet, but you must be fairly confident coming forward in this.
Yeah. I mean, we're always confident. We're confident whether we're going up against Optic or the best team in the world. You have to be confident. No matter which platform you're competing on.
Yeah.
And obviously the Pro League, the fact that it's the first of its kind, I guess, and a significant step up from the support we've seen previously from developers or investors. It does have a huge importance on it, and I think an interesting point actually will be to highlight for the people who are perhaps not contracted or not kind of tied down in organizations, or those without organizations entirely perhaps. There are a lot of opportunities now, for those teams to actually make their mark when you've got organizations such as C9, TSM, various others that get involved in Call of Duty. There are a lot of opportunities for pretty much every team in the Pro League, so the stakes are incredibly high. As far as how I think we should perform, obviously we want to get first. And that's not based on the expectations of everyone. That's based on our own individual and expectations and the expectations of us as a team.
Yep.
And that's basically the only thing that I want to consider at the moment, is just trying to meet our goals and taking it one step at a time, I think, because, it's, at the end of the day, it's online competition. And there are a lot of
there's a few factors in there that can always throw a spanner in the work. I get what you're saying.
There's a lot of inhibiting factors. There's a lot of unforeseen variables, I guess, that differentiate online from line events. So we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but it puts us in a position, or just having it online puts every team in a position where no matter what, you need to be playing not just for the win but for the map count, I think.
Well, awesome. All right, so where can people find you, Swanny? If there's like the one or two people who don't know where to find you out there, but where can your fans or anybody who wants to keep up with Swanny find you at the moment?
Hi. First of all, I guess the primary method of communication, even though I'm not tremendously active on it, will be Twitter, which is Callum Swanny. Aside from that, my newly discovered hobby is an Instagrammer.
I've seen.
Yeah, chronicling my adventures one crappy picture at a time. That's Callum Swanny as well, so the exact same as my Twitter. And perhaps my latest acquisition to my great social media portfolio would be my Twitch, which I'm attempting to stream on fairly consistently, hopefully, and I'm attempting to implement it into my daily schedule of 12 hours of Call of Duty. I should be streaming a lot, fingers crossed, and I actually did get when this video is out, I will have my partnership and everything sorted.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Which is good. And that's just simply Swanny on Twitch, which I was fortunate by some anonymous member of the Twitch staff. They just changed my username to the original Swanny one day, which is good.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, that's my trio of social media stuff, so you can catch me on all those.
Well, fantastic. I'll put that all in the description of this video so people can kind of keep up with you and kind of watch as you develop this year. All right, last thing, I suppose, any shout-outs to anyone you want to kind of shout out at the moment? All right, then. If you haven't noticed, small jump cut there due to a technical error this time. But Swan, last question. Anyone you want to shout out?
Yeah, and this is, I think, the second time that I've actually had the opportunity to do interviews, it's pretty strange because it's the first time in Millennium, or the first or second time in Millennium. So thanks to Millennium, firstly, the organisation, Logitech, Scuff, all of the sponsors, and obviously the staff. Carnage especially, who, for people who don't know, he's now transitioned over to a managerial role in the organisation. And everyone else behind the scenes, without whom it wouldn't be possible for us to actually attend these events, to receive the support we do, to be able to consider it a living. So thanks to those guys. Secondly, to obviously everyone who's watching at home, everyone who supports both myself, the team, all of the Bricetacular supporters, and everyone who supports Call of Duty esports as a whole, again, because you guys make it possible for us to actually sustain it as a living and be able to consider what we do in occupation, and have that privilege. And yeah, I think that's it, I guess.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your kind of your busy schedule to kind of come on the show and at least do this and help support me in the YouTube game. So for everyone watching at home, thank you kind of for watching this video. Remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that sort of palaver. I'm hopefully to get all of these done and keep doing these kind of videos. I love kind of finding out the inner workings of a player. So thanks for watching once more, and I'll see you next time.